and they will either follow the rules or they will pay the consequences for that. But that's their decision to make. They were elected, and they need to do that.
The Fresno County Board of Supervisors making their own statement on masks and mandates, saying all Fresno County school boards will make their own decisions on the state mandates, and the supervisors will not get in the middle of it. But they do recommend that all schools comply with the state. So the great mask and vaccine mandate debate begins once again as all kids go back to school in person this week and this upcoming week. Let's take roll call with our panel for this week. Code for America CEO, former gubernatorial candidate, and Hillary Clinton's former national political director, Amanda Renteria, is with us. And former state GOP chair, former U.S. Senate candidate, acclaimed author and contributor for Fox News and Newsmax, Tom Del Beccaro. Thank you both for being here. How are you guys?
Good to see you.
Good.
Well, I want to start with this. The new public health order issued by Governor Newsom this week mandating teachers to be vaccinated or be tested weekly. The big teacher unions backed him on this, but it did stop short of saying get vaccinated or don't come to school at all. Is the governor overstepping his authority, or is this what needs to happen to keep kids inside the classrooms? Amanda, we'll start with you.
Yeah, listen, I wish we had more of a community orientation today where you didn't have to put regulations in order to protect our kids. But listen, I mean, we know the math on this. We know the science on this. We're beginning to see younger kids, teenagers in hospitals now, and we're beginning to see hospitals at capacity again. And so when that happens, it does require governments to step in and figure out how to help, how to make sure that our kids are protected, particularly if we want them to be back in school.
Tom, your thoughts on this, how the governor did this, obviously, as schools are starting to come back, kids are starting to come back. For most teachers, Clovis Unified saying they only have half of their employees vaccinated.
Well, these are huge issues, so I want to talk about this in the lens more of my book, The Divided Era, which basically says the more government decides, the more it divides. There are people with very strong views on both sides of this issue, and when a single person makes the decision, that can even be more polarizing as opposed to devolving the decision to local school districts. I said months ago that Newsom would reach this point and make this decision, and now we have it along with places like San Francisco and other places. This will further divide California, and there will be no easy resolution to this issue in the near future.
Both of you know the law very well. Tom, I'll start with you on this. The mandate does include private schools. Does that open more lawsuits against the governor?
Well, to be sure, I mean, we sue each other. The historian Wilderand said animals claw each other to death, and men consume each other by due process of law. And that's where we're going to be. That's probably a more civilized way of dealing with it. But yes, he has faced many lawsuits. He's lost a lot of them recently. And you can expect more of it because, again, this is a big issue. There are people on both sides of it who feel strongly about it. And that has the makings of more division and lawsuits.
Amanda, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I struggle with this one because I don't think it's actually just a partisan or political divide here. We're going to see it in hospitals. We're going to see it in kids getting sick. You're going to see it again. Remember, it wasn't that long ago where everybody was worried whether or not someone can go into a hospital because they were at capacity, or whether or not they can go into hospital because they're worried not about the broken arm they might have, but about getting COVID while there. And I think that's what we need to be thinking about is how do we make sure that we can function as a society where actually hospitals work, where schools work. And that does mean having a community orientation. And if we can't seem to figure that out ourselves, it does require actually putting in regulations, just like making sure people aren't drunk on the road, just like making sure you're not going over the speed limit. At some point, it requires all of us to actually act together to say we want to protect our kids. We want to make sure we have functioning hospitals in this state.
And with that being said, I'll close the conversation on that with this. More controversy over the face mask mandate for students. Should parents be the ones deciding if their kids should wear a mask in classrooms, or should we leave it up to their primary physicians?
Well, I can tell you that the first mandate is never the last mandate. I agree with Amanda all the way up to the point where she says that government has to do X, Y, and Z. And a lot of people disagree with her on that point, agree with her all her other points. Maybe half the state or 2/3 of the state agree or disagree with her. The point being that a lot of people feel very strongly that parents know best for their children, but we don't live in that age, because when you have a public school with government money and government regulations, that is when rights start to slip away from families. So I personally believe parents should have the greater role, but there are those who disagree with it, and politics follows shortly thereafter.
Amanda, we got about a minute left here. You're a parent. You're sending your kids to school. I know they're probably in your household, I don't want to assume though, probably wearing masks. I know my child did when he went back to school, but don't parents know their child better, or should it be left up to the doctors here?
Listen, I think this all changes when all of a sudden we see a lot more hospitals filled with teenagers and kids. And I think that's the part that's scary. I'd like not to get there when all of a sudden then government is forced to do something about it because we have hospital beds that are filled. And so to the extent that I can be a part of making sure that doesn't happen, have my kid wear masks, not for themselves, but actually for the community at large, I'm going to do that. And I do hope we are raising our kids to actually think in a much more community-oriented way, where we don't have to have the regulations that Tom's talking about, but we in each of our families and our communities can say, we're going to do this because it's right for the greater good.
All right, we got a lot more to come with our panel. Tom and Amanda, hang tight. Much more to come. Coming up next, though, all the recall polls say he's the front runner if Newsom is recalled. But why won't he debate his fellow candidates? Syndicated conservative talk show host and gubernatorial candidate Larry Elder will join me exclusively next.